My guest today, well, he's legendary. His name is Anthony Muñoz, and he has 11 Pro Bowls. On top of that, 9 first-team All-Pros, 2 second-team All-Pros, and the team of the century. How does that sound? One of the all-time greatest offensive linemen in the history of the game. I am not scared to say he was dominant, and he changed the game. There's a few guys you can say that about, but Anthony Muñoz, what a career he had, and all-around awesome Hall of Fame person, and my Hall of Fame brother.
That's right. We're teammates.
Man.
Brothers, we'll be teammates forever now.
I remember you telling me, this was before I got into the Hall of Fame, you said, I'm going to invite you to my event, but you got to get elected to the Hall of Fame first. And Namath told me the same thing. Yeah. And I was outside looking in at that point, but now thank God I'm in the nice
circle now, man. That's right. I get a lot of heat because this was my 20th anniversary for my foundation tournament, and I'll be at tournaments around the country, and there'll be guys that say, "Hey, man, I hear you got a pretty good tournament. When's my invite coming?" I said, "Well, when you're wearing the gold jacket, you got the ring, and you're busted, because that's all I fly in is Hall of Famers. It doesn't matter what sport. I've had basketball, baseball, of course, my football brothers like you. But and then I utilize some of the local guys. But so
I was painfully aware of that, Anthony.
Yeah, so that kind of gives me a way out to not overbook guys. But believe me, if I could, I'd invite everybody.
You've done such a fantastic job. You chose to stay in Cincinnati, in that tri-state area. Your Anthony Muñoz Foundation does so much good work. And I was looking at it today in some of my research, and you have the 7 pillars of emphasis within the foundation. Can you speak to that a little bit about why you chose those 7 pillars, those 7 points of emphasis, and why you have chosen to help specifically the youth and empower the youth in that area?
Well, first of all, helping the youth, and a lot of times it comes from our upbringing. For me, it's an incentive, a motivation. My mom raised 5 of us by herself, working 2-3 jobs, never knew my dad, never met my dad. So, mom was mom, dad, coach, and boss. And so, growing up in Southern California with not a lot, I had individuals, coaches, teachers, uncles come alongside organizations. So, when I got to the NFL, I wanted to use the platform in a positive way. Didn't start the foundation until after I retired, because when I was playing, I understand leverage, relevance, but, I was an NFL football player. I was a husband. I was a dad. I wanted to be totally engaged with the foundation, Morten. So it was not till 8 years after I retired. Both our kids were getting ready to graduate college. And I said, now is the time. So that's why I do the foundation, because as we know, there's a lot of talented kids out there that just need a hug, need some encouragement, might need a little assistance. And that's what we do. And our mission statement is to engage the tri-state area to impact youth mentally, physically, and spiritually. And if you look at our 7 pillars, our 7 programs, each one of those address that in one way or the other. We have a mentoring program for elementary kids. So we're working on really helping them with their studies. But more than that, mentoring them during the school year is we build relationships. We take them to Reds games. We take them to the zoo. We have different things that we want to really allow them to become part of the Muñoz family, and then we have, we have character camps. This weekend, we're taking over 100 young men, 3-day overnight camp. We're going to teach them a little football so they get some exercise, but then we're teaching them what character is all about. We have chapel program, so we're teaching them how to work with other, people that don't necessarily look like themselves. So in the spring, we have one that's pretty diverse. This one coming up is 100% Hispanic kids. So we have those 2 programs. We have our youth leadership seminar, which we had a couple weeks ago. Usually we have 85 to 90 high schools, but, after COVID, we had 45 in person this year. And again, we've been doing it for 20 years. We bring in motivational leadership speakers, and we're talking about respect. We're talking about working together. We're talking about these high school students being leaders on their campus, in their families, in their community. Mm-hmm. So we're teaching them things that more, we learn in football, and it doesn't matter. You and I look different. You're lighter than I am. I'm darker. You're from a different.
Yeah.
but our goal was to work together, get to know each other. And that's how I grew up. So that's what we teach these young men and women at the leadership seminar. We have 2 types of scholarships. We have what we call our straight A scholarship: athletics, academics, achievement, attitude, and a big criteria is overcoming adversity. That's a one-time scholarship, $2,000 to $5,000 to help these seniors go to college. And then we have our scholarship fund, which is more of a need, but also, grades. And then, overcoming adversity is also part of that. And that's a $20,000 scholarship. So we have those, for seniors going to college, and the colleges are within a 100-mile radius of Cincinnati. And we have some great schools here. So, we try to help these young people mentally, physically through our camps and what we do, and then spiritually. Like I said, Morten, this is our 20th year. We work with probably 2,500 to 3,000 kids a year.
That's wonderful. Love and respect has no color, has no race.
Exactly.
Has no religious affiliation. It's simply a human quality. It needs to be, and it needs to endear. It needs to sustain through, a bond between humans. Yeah. Regardless of whether you're light-skinned, dark-skinned, Hispanic, African American, or in my case, a European immigrant from a little fishing village in Western Denmark.
That's right.
It's a beautiful thing, man. How much has your grandparents are from Chihuahua, Mexico? You were born in the U.S., of course. Mm-hmm. How much did they influence your life? What do you remember from them? Because I talk to a lot of guys, and family's so important to them. A lot of them come from broken homes. A lot of them come, like you just mentioned, you didn't really know your father. Yeah. So I would imagine maybe your grandparents took on a bigger role.
Yeah. Well, that's a great thing about it. My mom, also born here, she was first generation, but her parents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, they were all from Chihuahua. I knew them really well. And there's a lot of things they did bring from Mexico that I've really, been able to implement in my life. Of course, first of all, I love the food.
Who doesn't, man?
Oh, homemade tortillas and beans and rice. And, so that definitely, they brought that. We grew up with that. The celebrations, the quinceañeras for the young ladies, the piñatas, all the fiestas and stuff. So the food and the celebrations they brought, the music. Still today, I'm a guy that loves all kinds of music. But if I'm driving down the road, I can put Caliente on and listen to some good Hispanic music.
All right, hold on. Caliente?
Caliente means hot.
I know that. That's the name of the band?
Right. And so, but then the main thing they brought that I watched growing up was the work ethic. I mean, my family worked the fields, and my mom worked the fields picking grapes, and she worked at an egg ranch. So just watching, they didn't have to sit us down and say, okay, young men and women, let's talk about work ethic. All you had to do was watch them. I think that's probably the one thing that I learned from my whole family was work ethic. Really, don't complain, just get it done. Doesn't matter where you are, what you have, what you don't have, you have an opportunity.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful for that.
Somebody else who has a really good, appears anyway, a good work ethic is Joe Burrow. And you and I shared a car service. We were doing an appearance at the Hall of Fame in August. I remember talking to you about the Cincinnati Bengals and this year's roster, and you were very, very high on them, feeling pretty good about them. And they're hanging in there. They're definitely hanging in there. What made you feel so positive about 2021 as a Cincinnati Bengals? Because let's face it, you're a lifer up there.
I am a lifer, and Morten, I've been able to. I have season tickets. I watch them, so I've been watching ever since I left broadcasting. I watch, and then I do the preseason games. This is like my 22nd, 23rd. So I watch a lot more than just talent, and that's one thing that I love. I watch interaction. I love the leaders on the team, and Zach Taylor's been there 3 years. I think it's below maybe 12% of the guys that are here when he first got here. So it's a totally different team, a new makeup, a new culture. He's brought in guys that have playoff experience, that are really leaders, guys that are on defense and offense, and then go out and get this quarterback that I finally met him this year because COVID last year we weren't able to go down to the stadium. We didn't do preseason. But the first time I met him, he came up to me and introduced himself.
Mm-hmm.
I was there with Dave Lapham, who I played with, who's been the radio analyst for the Bengals for 35, 36 years. And Joe Burrow looks us both in the face. He says, appreciate you guys being here. We need more former players hanging out, being here, because we want that. We appreciate that. And, I can't remember a young guy that has come up to us and said that in the past. And then you hear other people talk about his leadership qualities, but just watching him on the field, how he handles himself. And then, so that's why I was excited. I said, this team, and I'm pretty bad at predicting things, but I really felt coming out of the preseason, which you don't see a whole lot, but because of the makeup, I still believe this team is capable of winning at least 10 games. And, they've played really great. They've stumbled a couple times, but I think they do have the roster, offensively, defensively, special teams to do that. And I think they have some really good leaders on the team.
Yeah, they got, like you said, Joe Burrow. How quickly are we going to talk about him being maybe a top 5 quarterback in the league?
Tell you what, Mort, he is just so calm. He'll throw a pick, but then he'll come right back and he'll march the team 80 yards. They'll score. I just love his whole demeanor when he's out there, and not to mention his physical ability. But just the one thing, the guy goes down with a major injury, but he comes back and he's like 100%. I think really before a lot of people thought that he could be back, and effective right from the get-go. So I agree with you. I played with 2 great quarterbacks. I played with Kenny Anderson, who in my humble opinion should be wearing that gold jacket with you and me. His career statistics were the best, when he retired for 16 years. So I played for Kenny Anderson, and then Boomer Esiason, who ended up playing 16 years, an amazing leader, an amazing quarterback, both very intelligent quarterbacks. And then I watched Joe Burrow, and I'm thinking, man, this guy's the real deal. And they got themselves an amazing leader. Again, we know how quickly injury can end things, but if he stays healthy, he can be here double-digit years and be one of the best.
Yeah, and they drafted his old teammate Ja'Marr Chase in the top 10 this past spring. And so how special is that kid? And how important was it, for Burrow's development, maybe to get this guy where they did in the draft?
Well, and he had already had some pretty good. He had Boyd there, and he had Tyler Boyd, and he had T. Higgins, and now they get Ja'Marr Chase. But being familiar with someone for a couple of years down at LSU, one of his big targets, all of a sudden he's with them, and it's like they didn't miss a beat. It was almost like they just took a bye week and then hooked back up. So again, I was a guy that I thought maybe they should address the offensive line in the draft. A lot of people said, well, Ja'Marr Chase. I tell you what, I still felt that, maybe we needed some, and the line's doing a pretty decent job, but I'm really glad that we got Ja'Marr Chase, because the guy is just, look at his stats. He's a difference maker. He can break a game open. And when you have a quarterback, like we said, that is familiar with the guy, it just only adds to the really potency of their offense.
Anthony, when you look at offensive line play today, let's face it, as long as there's a line of scrimmage, as long as there's a line to gain, offensive linemen, defensive linemen are going to be relevant. They're going to be, you can talk about maybe the phasing out of the fullback and how important is the running game. Still important, I think, and I think you would agree as an offensive tackle.
Yeah, I totally agree.
It's nice to have like a Derrick Henry right behind you, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That would be sweet. That would be sweet.
Yeah. How has offensive line play, because now we see a lot of this RPO stuff and spread offenses. How has line play changed? Has it gotten worse? Has it gotten better, or just different?
Yeah. It's hard. I really kind of watch saying, well, in the day, but there are some times when you look at it and say that technically it's not where it should be. At least, as a former lineman, someone that played for a long time, I kind of affirm with that, because I'll talk to some general managers and they'll say, okay, give me your opinion, be transparent. And I'll say that, and they'll say, well, we believe the same thing. There's no question the guys are, bigger and stronger and a lot of times faster. And maybe that's what puts the coaches into maybe a little comfort area. They're saying, okay, these guys are pretty athletic, so maybe we work more on strategy, more on this than, the technique. But I think we're lacking a little bit there. I think you still have your pretty solid teachers, your pretty solid lines, but I think it has to really improve, and it has to be something that you focus on, because Morten, like you said, you can throw the ball for 4,000 or 5,000 yards a season, but look at the teams that win the Super Bowl. They can line it up when it's 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, and if they want to run the ball, not that the defense dictates you have to run the ball, they'll run the ball and they'll pound you with the football. So I think it's still pretty relevant. I think but you look at the colleges, what are they doing? It's kind of like fast break football, man. It's they're up tempo. The linemen rarely get down. So now you're having college guys come to the pro. And, I think the technique is kind of falling behind a little bit.
It's another thing that it presents a big challenge for the offensive line now are these quarterbacks that are so mobile and they're very apt to just take off. And then as an offensive lineman, what do? Do you hold the block? Do you go get another guy? Do you go next level? I mean, all these things. Is he going to throw it? Am I going to be an illegal downfield? There's so many considerations now that maybe in a more conventional pro-style offense we didn't have. Well, we had the tight ends, we had the fullback, we had the halfback, and we're gonna run off tackle, we're gonna run cutbacks, and that type of thing. Do you think that's accurate? It becomes more difficult almost from an offensive standpoint. You
have some great points. I think you bring up a great point because when I was playing, we had the 3-step. That was a quick 1, 2, 3 balls.
Yeah.
We had a 5-step. We had a 7. So you knew kind of the landmark of where your quarterback was going to be. And it was almost like if he ran, it was because he got flushed by the rush. It wasn't like it wasn't part of the strategy. But you're right. I mean, you know where your quarterback is. So if you want to take him around then now you might be taking him around. Your quarterback's trying to get outside of you. Now some bang, he gets hit, and you're like, oh my goodness, it's on you.
Yeah,
you're right. So you never know. These guys are so athletic, so fast, and so quick. So now it's almost you just got to be like fly paper and stick onto the guy because if he goes inside, you think okay, I can take him inside because the quarterback. Oh no, the quarterback's going inside. So it create a problem for the offensive line. You just got to really go from snap to whistle and make sure that you hang with the guy the entire time.
So put your coaching hat on right now, Anthony, and I am a promising offensive lineman, and you're going to give me your top 3 fundamental things, non-negotiable, moment of truth, workbench, takeaways that I can work on. These 3 things you must do if you want to have a cold jacket, if you want to be successful, if you want to sustain and have a long career. Give me your top 3 things as an offensive lineman, as a tackle,
as a tackle. I'm just going to talk tech feet. I mean, you're going to have to, the line coach here, he's got a great tagline. It says, master the mundane. I mean, to me, that expresses everything about offense. I want you to work on your footwork over and over and over. And the foot speed is the one thing. I want you to be able to move your feet extremely fast, but moving them in the right direction, putting them in the right place. And then I want you to carry your hands up, and I want you to be able to deliver a strike while you're moving. That to me is very important. It's I don't want you absorbing. I don't want you catching guys, grabbing guys. When you're out in space, I want you to be able to make a strike while you're moving, and your guy's moving. Trying to readjust his move. So I'd probably say those 2. And then the third thing is bend at the knees, not at the hips. Get low by bending. Pretend you're a shortstop or a third baseman. That's how I want you to sit, and the ability to move that way because that's where you keep your power. So those are probably the 3 things that I would really stress. Mort, you're going to enter the NFL. This are the 3 things I want you to do as a tackle, man, and you're going to do extremely well.
And then you'll look at my physique and say, Mort, you should be a kicker.
Self-awareness, that's good.
Humility and a realistic view of your abilities versus maybe an unrealistic expectation, right? So that's a good point you're making about feet. So it's coming to balance in an athletic way, hands inside, being able to strike with leverage, because a defensive lineman, right, he wants to take you and get you off balance. Yep. That's all he wants to do. He wants to get you uncomfortable.
That's right.
Talk to a lot of these guys, and they want to, Kevin Green,
guys too. They're all working the hands, so they're trying to get you off balance. If you overcommit, if you lean, they're going to use your momentum to just throw you by. So you've really got to stay balanced. You got to make sure that And another thing that I think is emphasized. We used to emphasize it, and right when you put the glasses on, is the intense eyes, being able to see things. I mean, I tell guys when I work with them is your eyes need to be as intense as your whole body. You need to see your target, pick out a target. If the guy's got a great inside move, I want you to pick out a small inside target. And I don't care if you know I don't care if you know what he looks like. I don't want you to look at his face. I want you to follow that one target, because wherever his chest goes, that's where he has to go. Now, his head can go outside and his body can go inside. Don't look at that. But that's one thing. You have to have intense eyes.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great teaching point, man. I had that in kicking a certain spot on the ball. You would focus. Yeah. Everything else, white noise.
Exactly.
Focus on the specifics of the job, the details of the job. Yeah. Hey, we'll just play a little game. Who's the best tackle right now, in your opinion? Who's the best offensive tackle in the game today?
Well, that's tough. I mean, you got
pick your favorite. You've seen somebody and you'll say, wow, this guy, man, next level, right?
You know what? It's hard for me to say right now, because there's older guys that at times play really well. Then there's, a little inconsistency. I'm thinking of the big guy. He was at Washington, and now he's he's an older guy. Is it Trent Williams?
Mm-hmm.
He's still up there at a high level.
He's playing at 40 years old, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I think I knew a guy that was close to 40 that was pretty good when he was playing. Yeah, there's.
What about a guard? It could be all time too.
The guard is easy for me.
Okay, go ahead.
That's like, and I'm sure there's other guards that are going to say, hey, how about me? We have a guy that plays not too far from Cincinnati, Quenton Nelson for the Colts, who just absolutely mauls people. I mean, the guy, I love watching him because he is physical. He can pass pro. And it's funny because when I talk to guys and I talked about the mental part of the game, I said, you don't want to make friends during the game. The friendships come in the offseason when you play golf with them and you do charity events. But during the game, you want these guys not liking you. And then somebody told me, because that's what, when I watch Quenton Nelson, that's what it appears. He doesn't want to be. And then someone says, well, he doesn't like people. That's a perfect guy. As long as it's defensive people he doesn't like. He needs to like his line mates. But Quenton Nelson is a guy that, to me, I love watching.
What about center?
Oh, my goodness. I'm not.
An all-time center that you really said, man, that guy.
An all-time center?
Yeah.
Playing now or when back in the day?
History of the game.
Oh, there was a lot of them, but one guy that, and I'm not saying this just because we're in the same Hall of Fame class, but Dwight Stephenson of the Miami Dolphins. Guys, they used to play that odd defense. The center was covered, the two tackles, the guard, and usually you have a guard helping the center. And it was almost like the game plan was like, guards, you help the tackles. You look, because I'm taking this nose tackle by myself. And it's a shame that, he had the knee injury and his career was cut short. He could have probably played, twice as long as he played. But, man, Dwight Stephenson was an animal.
Who was the toughest person to block in your career and why?
And at left tackle, you probably agree with me. Every Sunday I could give you a name, so this guy is the best. But the one guy that I always say, Hall of Famer, played 19 years, the best all around, speed, strength, quickness, smarts. He had the length, was Bruce Smith. Bruce Smith was amazing. He was, you could tell his rookie year that he was just loaded with talent. And then like some young guys come in and they're not in the best shape, but it was like that light turned on and he dropped probably like 12 pounds. He was like probably mid-80s. He went down to the low 70s. And the guy was just phenomenal. But I'd have Smith.
Is there an edge rusher in today's game that you would like, if you had to go up against somebody that you would really not really enjoy that?
Well, as someone that played the game, you're always saying, well, I wish I could have gone against these guys just to kind of measure myself.
Yeah.
There's Von Miller. Is a guy that I would have said, I would have loved the challenge just to see, him and Aaron Donald, just see how I could fare against those guys. Aaron Donald's more inside, but he can rush the outside. Von Miller is an outside guy. Those are two, probably Von Miller is a guy with the speed guy is probably the guy that I would probably think about a lot the night before a game and love the challenge.
Lose a little sleep.
Yeah. And another guy that's, just up the road from us, he's not on the smaller side, but Myles Garrett. The guy, with Cleveland Browns, he is just phenomenal. Yeah.
One of the coaches that really made an influence in my life, Anthony, was Frank Gansz Sr. Yeah. And he was on the Bengals coaching staff in '79.
Yeah. And he was when I was with them. This dog will hunt. Dog will hunt.
Esprit de corps, baby. Esprit de corps.
Yeah, I was
Let's
around
go.
the Gansz for a year or two. So
Give me your opinion on the Gansz because he was such an amazing dude. Great speaker,
great,
very charismatic, very powerful,
very great.
and very consistent, right?
He was consistent, and you knew what you had to do. Of course, being a big offensive lineman, I was just, PAT, field goal. I wasn't a guy that ran down. I wasn't on return or anything. So, but I was in the special teams meeting because, PAT and field goal protectors, we had to be in there.
Yeah.
But, great communicator. And but I love that this dog will hunt, baby. And, he was a guy that you knew exactly what you had to do.
You remember he had the backpack with the speakers. At least when I had him in Atlanta, he would have this backpack and an amplifier. He would have this almost looked like Richard Simmons, when Richard Simmons would do the yoga stuff or whatever.
Exercise.
I don't know why. Maybe a bad analogy, and he would.
Always make sure it's working.
Mic check. And then he would go from a kickoff to a punt return to a field goal block he would jump all over in special teams practice. You had to have your head on the swivel.
Oh, exactly.
So he was an amazing dude, man. He
was.
He elevated us.
Yeah.
Hey, a little name game for you. I say a name, whatever comes to mind. You've been around a lot of greats, but we'll kind of go down the list. You've already talked about some of them. Paul Brown.
Innovator. Great football mind.
Yeah.
Great connector and a great storyteller.
Do you have a Paul Brown story?
I do. We had a rookie tight end, and Paul Brown to us was coach. I mean, you didn't call him Mr. Brown. You didn't call him. It was coach.
Okay.
So the story goes, we had a rookie tight end from the University of Pittsburgh, and like I said, he was a great connector. I mean, he would always talk to you, tell you stories. And Wilmington College, that's where we used to go hang out for 4 or 5 weeks during camp, a small college town north of Cincinnati. And Paul Brown, coach, and this tight end are crossing the campus, and the coach had someone with them. And so coach is asking this rookie, how things going, blah, blah, blah. And the rookie tight end says, before they parted their ways, he goes, by the way, Mr. Brown, why do they call you coach? And I'm thinking,
oh boy,
oh my goodness. And he, with offensive lineman, you probably were around, we always got to the stadium early.
I was there with them. Yeah, those are my guys.
So Paul Brown would always, because Paul Brown was at every meeting, knew everything about game plan, about matchups. Mm-hmm. So he would come in and we'd be hanging out in the locker room stretching and just kind of, we called it grazing. We'd be grazing. And he would come over to us. And he would always ask us a question, but we knew that he knew the answer. Yeah. So he would come up and let's say we're playing Buffalo, and he would look down at us and he would go so who has that number 78 for Buffalo? And I would say, Coach, that's my guy. So, Bruce Smith. And it would lead him to a story. He would tell us a story about his days either with the Bengals or for the Cleveland Browns or the military and he'd always, it was like a little history lesson. And I'm thinking, so I tell people, if you're a football fan and you love the history and you don't know about Paul Brown, you have to study Paul Brown and you have to know what the man brought to the game of football.
You can't tell the story of the NFL without talking about Paul Brown. Yeah. It's impossible.
And this is one that I just blown away. We know how the quarterback and the coaches communicate with their little transmitter. Well, I think it was late 50s or early 60s, way back when he actually put a transmitter in the quarterback's helmet, but all the interference of the local radio stations wouldn't allow them to communicate. Think about that, Morten.
Oh, my goodness.
And about years and years ago, he tried the transmitter, and that's how they communicate now.
Could you imagine the quarterback and all of a sudden, B97 FM 3 in a row, no talk, no interruptions from the B.
Oh, you see the quarterback dancing.
What's going on? Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Pass or run? I don't know.
So I have to go on about Paul Brown, but yeah, that's amazing.
That's awesome. All right. This guy, he's on television. He does a great job. Heck of a receiver, kind of underrated in my opinion, Cris Collinsworth.
Oh, tough.
Yeah.
Tough. I got another story I got to share with you.
Go ahead.
College, there was about 5, 6 of us freshmen. And the old recruiting things, you bring recruits in on Friday night, keep them all weekend, and hopefully you can land. We told the coaches, we said, whoever you give us for the weekend, any recruit, we're going to guarantee they're a Trojan. Just give them to us Friday night. So I'm in my apartment Sunday morning, and Coach Paul Hackett, our offensive coordinator, calls me. He says, Anthony, he goes, I know it's Sunday. He says, I got 2 tickets to the L.A. Laker games. We have a kid coming from Florida. I want you to take him to the Lakers game. He's showing some interest in coming to USC. So I said, Coach, we're supposed to get him Friday, but I'll do it. Lakers game, I'll take him. So I picked this guy up from the hotel. He's about 6'4", 6'5", about 160 pounds, dripping wet. I take him to the Lakers game, free 2 tickets. And that whole Laker game, I'm thinking, this guy is no way coming to USC. He's from Florida. He's not coming to USC. So right after the Lakers game, I take him, I buy him a hamburger, drop him off at the hotel. I said, later. It was Cris Collinsworth, and he still gives me a hard time. I said, Cris, I knew you weren't coming to USC. I wasn't going to waste my time, and I wasn't going to spend my recruiting money on you. He goes, you kept that money, didn't you? I said, I'm not a genius, but I'm not a dummy. And I said, but I do say now, Morten, I said, Cris, if I knew back then what I know about you now, I would have worked my butt off to make you a Trojan, because the kid is just tough. He came in as a rookie, everything. The guy was very, very important in our Super Bowl run that year. So that was my Cris Collinsworth story. I just bought him a burger and dropped him off.
Anthony, my recruiting story now is so eerily similar to this, and it was also perpetrated by an offensive lineman. I was between Michigan State and Purdue, heavily recruited out of high school. I was an exchange student, had just been introduced to football. Purdue was hitting me hard. I was at a Purdue Boilermaker basketball game.
Okay.
My host was an offensive lineman who showed absolute no interest in me. He dropped me off at some frat party and left. Never fed me, kept the money. I'm telling myself, I didn't know how to get back to the hotel. I was scrambling. Took me about 2 hours to get back to the hotel. Had to walk back.
Oh, no.
And I'm thinking to myself, there's no way I'm coming here and being a Boilermaker. Michigan State, on the other hand, wine and dine. My Danish guy, Hans Nielsen, picked me up, showed me a good time, and that's why I became a Spartan. So never underestimate a nice dinner. I know we were dirt poor back then, but
and hopefully you were 4-0 against Purdue when you were at Michigan.
We did okay against them.
Good.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Archie Griffin, my friend. Archie Griffin.
Great human being, but also a great football. I mean, you're talking the only 2-time Heisman Trophy winner. He was still here when I got here, and we went with the big back. So Archie was kind of not in that in the plans, but the time he was here, man, he was still. We'd get in the goal line situation, and not a big guy, and he would bust it, and he would always score.
Yeah.
But there's several guys that I learned how to be a professional when I first got to Cincinnati, and Archie Griffin was one of those guys that you just watched him on the field and off the field, and you learned what it meant to be a professional.
Yeah. I'm going to end with 2 guys. 2 of my favorite guys. One, I don't think one is no longer with us, unfortunately, but Ickey Woods, the Ickey Shuffle. Ickey Woods come on.
Yeah, he came in as a rookie. I still see Ickey at golf tournaments. I had a phenomenal rookie year, a great run with power and speed, and the type of offense we ran, he fit perfectly. It's a shame that he got hurt the next year. But, he's – the Ickey Shuffle, man. He had Paul Brown doing the Ickey Shuffle. That's huge.
That's huge.
But I had a great rookie year, over 1,000 yards, and him and James Brooks were very instrumental in us going to the Super Bowl.
Sam Wyche.
Oh, great offensive mind. I mean, I love Sam Wyche. Was a great person, but man, did he have a phenomenal? And I think that's a blessing and a curse for a guy like that, because a blessing is he was able to pass it on to his offense and us. But the truth was that I don't think he ever slept, because his mind was constantly, thinking about what to do. But with the combination of Bruce Coslett, Sam Wyche, and Boomer Esiason made offensive football for 9 years so much fun here with the Cincinnati Bengals. And the guy was just phenomenal with his offensive mind. And miss him, but he was a great friend. It was 8 years I played for Sam. But he was, it was amazing what he brought to the team as an offensive mind, and pretty good head coach too.
Anthony, it's amazing what you've done. in your life and your career and what you continue to do in Cincinnati in that tri-state area with your foundation. It's amazing. I applaud it. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of you, and I'm proud to call you a friend and a Hall of Fame brother. I really am. You teach me so many things every time I see you.
Thank you. It goes both ways, man. Appreciate it. Now that we're teammates,
Yeah. And look forward to seeing you more. I know I'm a specialist, but
hey, that's all right.
We're connected.
Breach. I'm close friends with Jim Breach.
Oh, great.
Time with Gansz Sr. So you kicked.
Yeah.
Jim Breach was at. You talked about yourself going early to the stadium with the lineman. Jim Breach actually became an honorary lineman, even though he was half our class. Yeah, we used to play. We used to play fat man football after Monday run and lift and watch, and we'd stay behind, and he'd be the all-time quarterback, and we played wiffle ball. So I still play a lot of golf with Jim. So, but I got to get you to fly from. You're in
Atlanta. Yeah, that's an easy flight.
Easy flight for my tournament next year.
Yeah,
because you do wear the gold jacket, and I do fly in my fellow Hall of Famers for our tournament. So
I'll be there. If I don't have a conflict, I'm there, brother.
Okay, appreciate it.
I appreciate your time, and I'll see you soon.
Oh, it was great. Thank you.